I'm a big fan of Catalyst. I really cast my mind back 3 or 4 years before it existed, and there was just no way to get projects like this off the ground. I mean, particularly in its focus around technology infrastructure, that's very rare on its own, but also somehow the way that it has a sort of co-governed approach, which allows us to deal with change and also with initiatives that maybe act on a longer time scale. This stuff is really difficult to do and just doesn't happen most of the time. So it's been fantastic being part of Catalyst. I think, we'll really see over time how, the things that it's done are just not replicated elsewhere.
We're a community for Tech for Good organisers across the UK and Ireland. We work together to share best practice, support one another, and help ensure Tech for Good communities can thrive.
This network was set up independently of Catalyst. There were a dozen or more founding members who were all organising networks across the country. When Catalyst was created, the network applied to be a participating member, and has stayed at that since.
Catalyst is trying to bring in lots of different groups in a more formalized way. So it's like more organizations and charities, whereas Tech for Good Organisers Network is a bit more grassroots, though they often do have like charity connections or social enterprise connections. I also think that the Tech for Good Organisers Network is a little broader than Catalyst in the sense that we have a much broader definition of what for good means, and we also have a much more broader idea of like who can fit into the ecosystem of for good as well. So we're not just restricted to people who work in charities, but also like social enterprises or B Corps or agencies. So I think we have a lot of that built in, and I think Catalyst does do that, but not to the same extent of like us in terms of how and the people we're trying to connect and the spaces we're trying to grow.
Major program of the Tech for Good Organisers Network is convening. We run events to convene Tech for Good organisers across the UK together to socialise and share information. And we have been doing that on an annual basis, largely with the founding members. So this event itself, I'm really certain that this is the largest convening of people running Tech for Good groups in the UK ever. Certainly with that particular grouping in mind. So, for that perspective alone, I think it was a great achievement. We had a wide diversity of kinds of group, people who are focused on government, people who are focused on charities, people who are focused on policy, all different kinds of regions were represented. The event itself, it was a full day event from 9:30 till late in the evening. Based in London, in East London. The format for most of the day was an unconference. An unconference is an event where participants make the agenda during the event as they go along. I think we had over almost 100 sessions during the day, all of which were spontaneously generated by the participants.
Shortcoming and long-term outcomes is that it doesn't really express the things that happen in a community organizing space, because the impact that things can have is like, 10 years later, there's a connection made over something completely different that started in that space. So I kind of see this space as like a sparks for like a future that could develop tomorrow, but it could also develop in like 20 years time. And it's all part of an ongoing process. So in that way, I think the short-term outcomes is that people connected. People had a chance to talk about things that they wanted to talk about. They felt supported. They felt like they could ask like some difficult questions. They felt like they were like inspired. Like the amount of comments we had, which were like, I left motivated, inspired. Like there's a lot of energy and a lot of desire to kind of, because we had quite a few people who were like hoping to start new groups. So there's a lot of desire for that as well. And we actually have a meetup coming up next week, which is focused exactly around that.